Hello, hello, and welcome to the CLV Revolution. Today we'll chat about
Chapter 9.
my partner in crime for today's episode has spent $1 billion on Facebook ads across his agencies and the agencies he advises. Dennis Yu is one of the best people in the world when it comes to ads. He's also the co-author of the best-selling book in social media on Amazon, The Definitive Guide to TikTok Ads. Stick around to find out how can you nail acquisition in e-commerce going forward to 2024 and 2025, the sweet spot to stop spending money on ads, why acquisition agencies will vanish, and many more things acquisition related about customer lifetime value. So Dennis, here we are again. Thanks a lot for joining me in this, man.
Awesome, Valentin. Always good to see you.
Excellent. So, what do you think about the book? Let me know on camera.
Right here, I think that anyone that's selling products and wants to be able to increase their profit should understand CLV, customer lifetime value, which is not the same as acquisition marketing. And Valentin knows a lot about what are the pitfalls of acquisition marketing because there's so many mistakes that you can make. And I like how there's a structured framework that's built around RFM so that just because you can afford to get someone for less, that might not be the right kind of customer. There's customers that you should be willing to pay more because you're looking at the overall lifetime value. And I especially like chapter 9, which we're going to talk about here today. But anyone who wants to put structure around their e-com and around the metrics should understand how to tie the strategy to the data in the CLV Revolution book.
Super. Thanks. So, Dennis, we've been through a lot of episodes together. We talked about these things a lot. What do you think is the main idea of chapter 9? And let me know how do you think this taps into the current context, because you are way more deep into acquisition than I am, for sure.
Well, I think you have on page 172, you talk about the old way versus the new way. And here, the old way, three steps: decide on the product offer and budget, run campaigns, and optimize the campaigns. But the fact that there's more research first, I think, is what throws people into a loop. So they have to understand the customer. They have to understand the overall life cycle of not the minimum that they're trying to get the acquisition for, but the maximum they can afford based on how long it takes. So I think it's a smart approach. I worry that most marketers, especially if they're employees working at a larger company, aren't thinking about the overall life cycle. And they're not thinking about RFM, and usually there's some people in charge of reporting or analytics, but they're different than the advertising people. They're different than the product people. I like what you're saying. I think that it's tough for most people to do it because it requires coordinating across what would typically be many functions.
Yeah, I think that's the main challenge nowadays, because there are too many roles. The division of work. We are
Yeah.
doing this, you are doing this, you are doing that, and then it's the factory can work for sure better if you specialize. But as you've said, we need this coordinated effort. And what I've noticed as well in my, let's say, in my last 4 years of advocating like crazy for customer lifetime value and acquisition efforts driven by CLV, what I've noticed, Dennis, is that there is this let's say inertia, adversity towards changing your processes and your behavior, because we are coming from the gold days of pandemic. Remember 2021?
Yeah.
When the demand was like here and the supply wasn't there. And and there are companies which and e-commerce managers and teams which are hesitating on changing their ways, because indeed CLV doesn't have a structured process. So that's exactly what I've tried to do, to change processes, to help companies to understand, hey, there are more steps. You need to go more granular before throwing more money into Facebook, TikTok, whatever. Why don't you learn a bit about the customers that you are addressing with your products, and then why
Yeah.
don't you measure what matters and see how this and I want to tap into this. What's your take on that? Do you think we can still be performant, or we can still name ourselves good marketers or great marketers if we don't take into account, especially for business models with the higher purchase frequency, if we don't take into
Yeah.
account this CLV to CAC ratio?
I think it's impossible because two things. One, if you're looking at CLV to CAC ratio where there's high frequency, then the pure acquisition marketers are going to miss out on the highest quality customers. So if you have other competitors who are willing to pay more and they can cherry pick the more valuable customers, then the other guys are going to get the customers that you don't want, you know? And so that
Yeah.
creates a downward spiral.
Yeah.
There's a healthcare company in the United States called Kaiser Permanente, and they've been running commercials around Thrive, and they show people that are very healthy, and they're doing yoga, and they're exercising, and they're drinking green smoothies. And I can just imagine most people looking at these commercials saying, "Oh, this is terrible. I would never want to become a customer of that healthcare company," which is exactly their point, because they want to try to attract the healthier customers, but they're willing to pay more for the healthier customers because those people are going to have less insurance claims, right? So the higher the purchase frequency, the more important it is to look at what you can afford to pay relative to the life cycle of the customer. And I think that when you have people that are focused in most companies on just Facebook ads or just the website or just SEO or just email marketing or all the tool level specialties, they're not focused around the customer. And therefore those kinds of companies are going to struggle because they're going deeper and deeper into tool expertise with all the AI tools that are coming out, and less about having people that own different customer segments, right? Because the natural extension of CLV, as you've taught it through these 7 steps, like in chapter 9, is if you're going to look at the overall life cycle, then you have different customer types that have different values. And the way that a mom versus a student versus a business professional versus like whatever categories, we have on ideal customer profiles, that requires people to intimately adopt and be those people, like really, really get in depth and be maybe less sophisticated with the tools. So where are e-commerce companies going to be able to re-architect to have people who are customer leaders around each of those ICPs, right?
Yeah, I guess that's that we are still in the making, and I think e-commerce, it's a work in progress, and we will get to moments where these kind of things will become basics, like if you remember, because we are both from another generation, we both
Yeah.
remember when we were having impressions, and we were counting Facebook fans, and we were
Yep.
looking at this type of vanity metrics back in the days. But
Yep.
the environment is changing, and what I want to ask you, Dennis, is if we look a bit about how the acquisition will evolve and talk a bit about the future. Uh, where do you see e-commerce going? I'm a bit, let's say, reserved when it comes to this abundance of players. So I think there will be less players in the market, and in order to be one of those players, you need to be data driven. You need to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
customer centric, and to change your ways.
Well, increasingly data driven because there's the cost of advertising is higher and you can't afford to have quite as many mistakes. But I think rather than, more tools and more AI and more optimization, which obviously has to be the case when you have more efficiency, more channels, more complexity, I think the biggest shift is going to be towards people that are more strategy oriented. So you see people like the CEO of a company who they understand kind of the story. Maybe they're the founder, maybe they're the product expert, which is how their company came about through their founding story. But you're going to find more people that are like that inside the organization that can identify with other people who share that story, who truly understand that customer persona because they are that customer persona. And I think that's going to create a shift towards influencers, if you will, or building these relationships with the actual customers. So I have a friend who competes in the Olympics in Canada in gymnastics, and I saw him create a luggage commercial, And he popped out of the luggage box and he says, when I travel a lot to international gymnastics competitions and I use this particular luggage, and he's showing how he's using the luggage. And I thought, this is very expensive luggage. Who's going to pay for this metal luggage, right? The metal luggage is attractive, but very expensive. People don't travel very often. Why would you pay 3 or 4 times more for this metal luggage, right? But they can afford, like this company can afford to do that because they're attracting the right audience of people that are like me, that actually like, I identify with these different people. But they need people in order to attract guys like this gymnast. They need people inside the company, not influencer marketing people, not agencies, but people who truly understand the core demographic and are part of that marketing operations team. They understand how much they can afford to pay. They're not just PR or outreach people, right? So I think this new breed of strategy-driven people that understand the persona well enough that they can get on camera, that they can interview people, that they can build relationships with ideal customers, makes marketing more of an extension of spending time with the representative customers than it is like sit behind the screen and run ads. And because I'm better at optimizing ads than you, I'm going to drive more sales. I think that paradigm is what's shifting.
Yeah, and also what I have to say about this, Dennis, I recently read an exciting book called Range, which argues that the good old days where the specialists were running the world are going to be over really soon, because now
Yeah.
you need multiple types of intelligence, let's say,
Yeah.
in order to understand the complexity of the world. So the generalists are the ones which will, let's say, orchestrate better campaigns, because they will take into account different channels, different type of
Yeah.
customers, the
Yeah.
psychological aspects as well. So
Yeah.
we are not going to be these geeks which know how to tweak the CPC, because the algorithm does it all. I mean, you know better than I do. I mean, you've taught me this multiple times.
I worked at a search engine, so that was my job. And I believe that the AI tools that we can use, and then the AI that's powered by the advertising engines, Google and Facebook and these guys, they're so smart that there is now a level playing field. And so even though, I've made a career in 20 something years being good at running ads and tweaking as a geek, that advantage is about to be disappearing. Just like you don't need, I'm good at math, but you have a calculator. So my advantage is now nothing. Now I have to actually better understand the principles and the strategy and actually create better content. And when I understand the customer better, I'm going to create better content.
Yeah. And also the this holy trinity of let's say the creative, the offer, and the channel slash target is bit by bit going towards the creative, because you can
Yeah.
you need to that's in your power. I mean, the AIs, at least not yet, they can't craft messages as better as you can do them. So
Yeah.
that
The AI can distribute across, the AI can do the video editing. Like I spent some time with our friends at Descript, and
yeah,
now you can one click take a video and turn it into an Instagram reel or a YouTube or a Facebook ad. And obviously with Google Performance Max, the system will do, and Facebook's new AI generated creative, they're creating ads for you. Then what matters now is the input. So the raw
yeah,
input of video is more important than trying to be good on Snapchat and Twitter and Gmail ads and all the like. It doesn't. That part is going away. That's how it's
yeah.
been the last 15 years. But now it's about the actual storytelling. So I think it's shifted all the way back to who can craft relationships with the underlying customer to collect authentic stories via video. What you and I have talked about that for years.
Exactly, yeah. Dennis, I wanna touch a bit the subject of where do you see the agency, the acquisition driven agency, the PPC performance marketing agencies going? What's the future holding for them?
I think acquisition agencies are going the way of advertisers on AOL. Because what are you going to do if you can't drive the efficiency and you can't drive? If it's just acquisition and agency, there's 2 death sentences built into that. One is acquisition only, because anyone who wants acquisition as a client, is not thinking about overall CLV and profitability. And then B, an agency by definition is an additional cost and friction point. It's an intermediary between you and where the media is being bought. And the media companies, Google, Facebook, TikTok, these guys, we've had conversations. They actively, it's not that they're trying to kill the agencies, it's that the agencies are getting in the way, not doing a good job, and that hurts the revenues of Google and Facebook. So the automation that they're doing is doing the work that the agencies were supposed to do, but don't. I've audited so many campaigns by agencies, and they are so bad because the agencies are usually organized around account management. Oh, how is your child doing? And oh, Christmas gifts, and but not around the optimization, right? Optimization is more of an engineering, strategic, smart with data thing. But usually account managers at agencies are designed around, their salespeople. They're not really optimizers. It's like the salespeople, you buy a car, the salespeople at the dealership versus the actual mechanics in the back. And now there's no need to talk to the salesperson if you want to buy a car, right? You can just look at the price online. But you do go to the dealership if something's broken because someone other than you needs to come and fix the car. So I think agencies, they have to focus on CLV and they should read this book. But at the same time, they need to focus on a particular niche so they can do it over and over again in that category. Maybe it's, outdoor
Yeah.
products, and they have the relationships in outdoor products that
Yeah.
can create value add on top of just, well, we're really good at YouTube ads. Yeah, well, I can run YouTube ads without your help. So, but do you have deeper relationships? Oh, I have relationships with people that do sport fishing. Oh, okay. Well, that's actually helpful to me.
Yeah. I think this is a very important aspect, and I also see that this this transition towards focusing on a niche where you can not dominate but at least be relevant.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen, because there is this emergence,
Mhm.
and there aren't too many free spots. Those it was that game, musical chairs, right? So
Yeah.
you can't find the chair for you anymore. I mean, and that's why you need to tap into different into a different way of working.
Yeah.
Then is one aspect that I admire at you, is that you have all these stories. You're traveling like crazy on the entire planet. So I don't
Yeah.
know anyone that traveled as much as as you do. So uh, do you see a difference in on different markets? Do you think,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, now you're in Asia, right? So you're in,
Yeah. I'm in Dubai today,
yeah,
and the funny thing is that they don't have TikTok. And even though Facebook's been big over the world, it's not as big here, and they're on Instagram. So if you're doing e-com and you're trying to sell to this market here, you need to understand Instagram, which is largely around videos and pictures. So if your e-com doesn't include those kinds of items as authentic stories, and you don't know how to do things like Instagram Reels, then you're missing out on a whole market here, right? And YouTube, for example, only just opened up in Pakistan, for example, which is where I'm going to be next month. And this is a huge gold rush there. The traffic is cheap. There's people that have gone from nothing to millions of followers, and of course have now become influencers, pitching their favorite products to be able to then grow their journey as influencers. Yesterday I was with the government here in UAE, and they have this 1 billion followers conference. And last year they had 1,000 people, and between them they had 1 billion followers. And this year, in a couple months, or next year, I guess, so yeah, 2024, they're holding it again, and now it's going to be 3 times bigger. And these influencers are all wanting to partner with e-com companies in their area of expertise. And
yeah,
if you're not here at this influencer conference, you're not going to know how to connect with these sorts of influencers. Because you see, like, Mr. Beast had his Mr. Beast chocolates and Mr. Beast burger, and Logan
yeah,
Paul had his prime drink. I see more and more of those kinds of relationships, but you have to build credibility in that niche. You can't just say, I'm going to hire an influencer agency and they're going to build the relationships for me. That's like me saying, hey, Valentin, I can find you a wife. I'm just going to be a matchmaker. Like, no, you have to actually go out and build those relationships yourself. So I think most companies, they haven't built the teams for those kinds of relationships because they're not even there at the events. They're not even there where their customers are, right? Or they've outsourced it to agencies that are doing all kinds of other
yeah.
random things.
Yeah, I I totally agree with this fact that this creator economy, which is taking over the world, is going to be way more bigger than it is right now. So if you have
Yeah.
this, let's say, capacity to draw people's attention to whatever you are doing, and if you are consistent as well, so it's not like one
Mhm.
time one time wonder, one hit wonder, then you can then outsource the product, the all these things are on, I don't know, they will happen in a different country. So I have a friend which grew uh, an Amazon brand for with swimwear, and they got
Mm.
to 8 million in turnover without meeting in person his supplier. So he never been there in China. They've been when they reached 8 million in turnover. So 3 years after. So basically, this capacity to attract the attention and
Mhm.
then sustain this attention, to nurture this the attention of your audience.
Yeah.
And I think these brands will win in the future.
Yeah.
One aspect that I want to warn, let's say, people, or the ones which will see this, is that this type of approach towards developing a brand is not sustainable unless you also deliver. So basically, if Mr. Beast would be doing a chocolate which tastes like, I don't know, old school thing that nobody wants, because I don't want to use bad words here,
Yeah.
even though I never tasted, so we don't have it
Yeah.
here in Romania. But at the end of the day, you also have to deliver. So
Yeah.
in order to get people into the habit of buying from you, you also need to deliver. And
Yeah.
if you're a great influencer but your products are crap, or
Yeah.
they taste like,
Backfires.
yeah, that's going to backfire
Well,
in your
you saw he
money.
pulled the burgers, right? The Mr. Beast burgers have been discontinued because they had product issues and people were complaining, and it was rated 1 star everywhere because they just
Yeah,
outsourced it to a white label kid that did a terrible job. And they blamed each other for that. But an example of a company that's done it right, I'd encourage everyone to look at Escape Fitness. So Escape Fitness is a small company. They do $20 million a year, but they compete against big fitness equipment manufacturers. And Matthew Janusek, now he's 52, I think. And he had outsourced a lot of the manufacturing to China, but because they had some quality issues, he actually built his own. He flew out to China and built his own factories because he
yeah,
wanted everything made just right, and it's made in a certain way for high-end fitness, like the professional athletes and colleges, like people, commercial fitness, right? Not just like random people, but people who really want to pay a lot more for quality. And I was telling him a few years ago, hey, you should, you're the figurehead, right? You're an executive. You're not a 25-year-old muscular whatever, but he's still very muscular and very athletic. He said, no, 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 nobody wants to see me, right? But actually I think he's almost good enough to be like in a magazine. And so he started showing himself working out. He said, oh, no one's going to want to see this. And now I think he has like 100 million views on YouTube, something like that. And his company is
yeah,
thriving because he has, to your point, Valentin, he's adopted the persona of that person who's an executive who's busy. Maybe they're not a professional athlete, but they're willing to pay more, especially during COVID, right? Where you have to, you can't, the gym is closed, so you can build your own gym. So a lot of these people who are wealthy were building their own gyms. They're buying equipment from Escape Fitness, and he found that the stories that he thought were boring were actually the ones that resonated the best, because busy people like you and me who want to get fit and are willing to pay more are going to buy his equipment, right?
yeah.
And then
That's
he's interviewing all these other the people who are like Mr. Olympia and they compete in bodybuilding, or they're fitness influencers because they've achieved some kind of world record for pull-ups or whatever it might be. He's been interviewing these people and asking them, so what is the secret? Like, how do you sleep and how do you work out and what do you eat? And show me how you do this exercise. He's doing these exercises together with them. And it's a fantastic experience. And it just happens to be that they're also using his equipment. But the funny thing is that they're not making videos promoting Escape Fitness equipment. They're really showing techniques, showing how these people live their lives, showing these little
yeah,
hacks, like how do you get your heart rate lower when you're under in a high stress situation. This is the way you do your breathing pattern to do that. Like, I didn't know that, right? That has nothing to do with the fitness equipment that he sells, nothing directly. But I think
Yeah,
most brands don't know how to make that pivot to be able to create that kind of mid funnel content that works on social media instead of just pictures of their product over and over again, which used to work for 15 years, but is not as effective anymore.
exactly. Yeah. Or as Bob Mesta also noticed, like you did just now, Dennis, when you are selling something, you are just selling the mustard. You're not selling the whole sandwich. And you need to
That's right.
understand what is the whole sandwich, what kind of progress your customers are making with the part that you are selling, and help
Mhm.
them make progress by understanding their context and their intention. Because if you
Yeah.
don't understand that, you're throwing money to the algorithm with some stupid email campaigns, stupid messaging, stupid ads, which are not relevant. And without
Yeah.
relevancy, you're nowhere to be found. You're falling into oblivion.
Yeah.
I want to touch a subject because I've got this coming from the early readers of my book, which is
Mm.
the work of Byron Sharp, right? So
Yep.
he said that, you know what, in order to grow a company, you just need to acquire customers. And I want to publicly state this disclaimer. So with the CLV, is not about, you know what, we just going to focus only on these soulmates or lovers or your best customers, and we are going to disregard the other ones. You need to also pay your fixed costs. So any revenue can be a good revenue, even
Yeah.
though you are losing some money on it, as long as you end up being profitable thanks to your best customers. That being said, it's not that acquisition shouldn't be done on a broader scope. It's about knowing who are your best customers, why they buy, so that you can craft better and more relevant messages, and also understanding how much you can afford. So without CLV, you don't know how much you can afford to spend on acquisition. And this kind of game is still not there. We have these things like 3-to-1 ratio on the CLV, but what is important is to understand if you are profitable, and if you have the cash flow to continue to be to subsidize the time until your CAC payback will happen.
Yep. Well, you learn in economics, marginal revenue equals marginal cost is the optimization point. So I view it as these different tiers of customers. So your very best customer, you can afford to pay the very most for because they have the highest lifetime value. But you'll continue to go down to lower and lower tiers of customers where their their profit might be less, but it's still profitable to acquire these customers up until the point where you stop. And any further than that, you're acquiring customers that are unprofitable. So it's still the same thing. It's still acquisition, but you're starting from the highest powered customers, not because you're trying to only maximize profit, but when you have your best quality customers buying from you, that also helps you with word of mouth marketing. That helps your reputation better, where people, the purchases I make are largely dependent upon who else I see that are doing it. So if people I respect are buying certain products, I'm more likely to buy those same products as well. So I think
Yeah,
that it's not only your best most loyal customers. It's not only I just want to acquire everybody. It's think of it as like a tiering, but tiering can be kind of like the concentric circles, right? You
yeah.
start in the middle, the most profitable ones, and we keep going out until at which point that's as far as we can go before we start losing money.
Yeah, you need to have you need to know your bullseye so that you can know where to throw your darts. So it's the same thing with acquisition as well. It's not acquisition or retention. This
Yeah.
debate, I think, is completely useless. It's
Yeah.
acquisition, conversion, retention, right? So it's about the whole
Yeah.
customer journey.
Yeah.
Dennis, man, we are at the end of this session, and thanks a lot for joining me today. Why don't you tell us the last words for this episode, and where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you?
Well, I want people to get the CLV revolution if they want to grow their e-commerce business and scale it. If you don't, then allow your competitors to come get this book and understand where they can pay more to acquire customers that you otherwise wouldn't have. And if you want to learn more from me or connect with me or have questions for me, then just Google me, Dennis Yu, and you'll see a full knowledge panel show up. And I'm happy to talk to you on whatever your channel, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is. But I'm super grateful for Valentin. There's not a lot of people that I believe in, but Valentin has his ducks in a row. He has a clear structure which you can follow. It's not just theory. Running an e-commerce agency and building software allows him to be a valid, credible author. So I'm super grateful for you, Valentin, that you took the time to put this into a digestible, clear, rational framework that anyone can follow. So anyone who owns an e-com business, or they have team members that they're not quite sure if those people are competent, they should study this framework and understand what jobs they need to do to tune their business so they don't go out of business with this change that's starting to occur.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it, and thanks a lot for inspiring me to continue my work, because you've been instrumental in my journey, and I appreciate you as a teammate, as a partner in crime, and as a friend as well. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Valentin.
So that was it, guys. We'll see each other at the next episode when we will speak about chapter 10.